is back. Where the hell have you been? At home, sitting in your asses?
Go away now, Josh. Actually, my name is Alan.
You're a dorky white kid with a Cub Scout bandana on his head.
Bravo.
Echo.
November.
Tango. On.
Football.
Welcome back, everybody, to Bent on Fantasy Football. I am your host, Alan Bentley. This is my co-host, Josh Worley.
Hey, everyone.
How are you guys doing? Good. Okay, great,
Yeah.
great. So, we have a lot in store for you this week. I had a draft this last weekend. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Josh has got some games he wants to talk about this week. So, we got a whole bunch of stuff going on. But before we get into that, what do we do every week, Josh?
We crack open our beers.
That's right. So we're going to crack open our beers this week.
I went first last week, didn't I?
No, I think I went first last week,
all right.
and then the week before we'll review the tape.
I'm gonna show my beer first, and we don't have much player news this week, but we're gonna go over a one at least. But my beer this week is zero, because as we were discussing roster moves, I said when Marlon Mack came up, I said that's the fantasy impact is zero that he has in that Texans backfield. So
unless something miraculous happens,
right, which I don't see happening. So
yeah. So yeah, we're going to talk about that also tonight, or today, I should say. But before we get into all that, let's get these beers open. And
what does your beer say, by the way?
Oh, you want to see mine?
Yeah, I want to see it.
I didn't think you did, but you asked for this though. All right, so my beer says Chicago Bears 2022 NFC preseason champs.
Undefeated.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, hey. You know, like I said to you before, you know, we may not get a gold trophy for that, but we might get like an aluminum helmet or something that we can wear. It says NFC preseason champs
Yeah.
on it.
Keep the defenses from reading your plays.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yep.
Perfect.
Yep. Throwing it up to aliens and it's coming back down and they're intercepted. It's just a whole big thing. But anyway, moving on. I do want to talk about my team, you know, because I had a draft.
But we're going to crack these beers, though, first.
No, we're not. All right,
Okay.
let's do it. All right, everybody, sit back, pop open a cold one, and enjoy the show.
That zero beer is pretty damn good.
It's not nearly as sweet as that preseason championship.
True. True.
Celebrate while you can. Anyway, last weekend I had a draft.
Okay.
I'm excited to talk about this.
And this is not the one we're in together, by the
No,
way. Ours
no,
is
it's
coming
not.
up this weekend.
I'm excited to talk about this because I got some good players. Now, I want you guys to give me some feedback and tell me what you think of my team. I'm going to say I went a little bit strong in the first few rounds, and you guys be the judge of what happened after that. So, the draft. It was a 10-team draft.
10-team, okay.
And it was a PPR league, full PPR league. And the value in this league is definitely PPR because quarterbacks get 5 points for a touchdown, as opposed to like some leagues at 6 and 7 or whatever. So we're kind of limited on points for the quarterback. So I'll just kind of run through my roster, at least my starters. And you know what? I didn't pull it up before we started, but I can tell you this much: first round, I had the 10th pick overall. I was pretty shocked to know that Josh Allen went 2nd overall.
In a non-super flex, that's unheard of.
Yeah.
But hey, if someone in your league is going to do that, let them.
I will say this. Though. That threw everybody off. It threw everybody's game off. It kind of put a wrinkle in everybody's plans, right? It did not start a run of quarterbacks, which is good. But it did, in fact, lead to something later on in the draft that did cause a run of quarterbacks. So anyway, coming up, I got at the number 10 pick, I got Najee Harris. So
And I just can't believe that he was still available at 10.
yeah. Swinging around, going back down, I got Joe Mixon as my next running back. So right off the top, I got 2 really good running backs. I know you got a little bit of mixed feelings on Mixon.
Not his on the field and fantasy ability. I just don't like the person he is. I don't like his character.
Fair enough.
But I think both of those guys are PPR relevant.
Yeah.
I mean, they're top 5 in targets last year for running backs.
Yep. So that was kind of my thought process on it, was to get those PPR points as well as the rushing yards. And with those two coming up at 10 and 11, I couldn't pass it up. My initial game plan was a little bit different than that. I'm not going to discuss that because Josh is sitting right here and I'm drafting against him this week, so we're not going to talk about that. And a lot of you guys that are watching this also are drafting against me this week, so we won't talk about that. But anyway, going down, just a quick run through. I wound up with Joe Burrow as my quarterback, the two of the running backs that we talked about. In addition to that, I also had Melvin Gordon.
Josh Jacobs as well.
And Josh Jacobs, exactly, for my backups. And then in the wide receiver, I wound up with Tyreek Hill and Allen Robinson as my two starters. But I also got Christian Kirk as he'll probably end up starting in place of Allen Robinson. But as it worked out, I was able to do that. I wound up with 3 quarterbacks all total. And there's a reason I did that. Number one, because it was a run on quarterbacks, and I started it with picking a specific quarterback. And it kind of cascaded into a lot more, which was actually good for me in some of the later rounds. But then my kicker was Harrison Butker. My tight end was, who was my tight end?
Dawson Knox.
Yes, it was Dawson Knox. That's right.
And you weren't too happy about that, but in that offense, I mean, pretty much any weapon in that offense has potential.
And tight ends went, the top tight ends went relatively quick, 3rd round, 4th round in that ballpark. So at this point, I really, he was one, well, other than kicker and defense, he would have been my last really point position, I guess. But I'm kind of in the same thought process. There was not a whole lot there. He showed some potential last year. He had some good games, but in that offense, the ball's going to get spread around. Everybody's going to get a piece of the pie, and it just depends on how much of the pie he gets.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my thought process, and I don't. Sorry, I came unprepared. I didn't know we were doing a show tonight. I didn't bring my roster with, so I just was here, and Josh pops in the door and goes, "Want to do a show?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, cool," because we don't pre-plan for any of this at all. So anyway, moving on.
Oh, they know, they can tell. So
pretty obvious, I guess. So that was my starting lineup. I thought it was pretty solid for the most part. I did mention I got Tyreek Hill. Did I mention him?
Yeah, 3rd round. I thought that was actually at pick 30, I assume, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that was actually a pretty good spot to pick him. He's been going 21 to 26. So. Yeah.
And you know what's funny about that is, so our draft was on Sunday, and I did not know about that long catch that he had at the beginning of their game, their preseason game, for like 51 yards or whatever it was. I had no idea about that, so that had no influence on me at all. I found out about it after I drafted, and I was like, oh, thank God. I was a little worried there, but you got Tyreek Hill who can run fast as lightning, so there's something's going to happen. And Tua's got a strong arm, so I just don't want to have to say his
accuracy needs to improve, but I agree with you. It is. Well, it's a rocket arm.
Well, with that kind of speed, he can.
Yeah.
He can make up for it. I mean, he can adjust.
Yeah.
But I just don't want to have to say Tua's last name at any point during the season. Okay, so let's just.
Tonga Vailoa.
Yeah, I don't want to say.
Okay.
That. I don't want to say it. And I'm not going to say that. So I'll just say Tua. So that's who he is.
Tua.
Hopefully I can say his name a lot this year. That'd be awesome, but we'll see. We do want to talk about some of the matchups. So one more time, guys, give us some feedback on what you think of my lineup. Tell me if you think it's weak, strong, where it's weak, where it's strong, that type of thing. Put it in the comments down below and see what everybody else thinks too. But moving on to week 1.
Okay, so there are some matchups we want to talk about. Starting with the Thursday night game. Now, if you remember, a couple weeks ago, we did our Super Bowl prediction picks. And, oh no, I had Buffalo and Tampa Bay, didn't I? But this is Buffalo and the Rams. And, yes, both defenses are going to be good. Okay, there's high expectations for both teams. But both offenses are absolutely prolific. I think this game is going to be a huge shootout. Fantasy relevant, you got 6 to 10 guys on both sides, or on both sides of that matchup that could be fantasy monsters this week.
Mm-hmm. I don't disagree with that at all. And I know we talked about the odds. Buffalo favored by 2.
2.5.
Oh, I'm sorry, 2.5. And then the over-under is 53 on that.
That is on the higher side. There's only one game that's actually a higher over-under than that this week, and we'll talk about that soon. But I'm not afraid to. I would expect that to go over. I wouldn't be afraid to touch that.
I'm of the opposite thought, and here's why. And I don't think it'll be much under that 53, but here's why. You got to remember, there's two sides to the ball, right? There's an offense who scores a lot of points for you, but there's also a strong defense on both sides of the ball here.
Yeah.
So you've got a tough Rams defense, you've got a tough Buffalo defense. I think that one keeps the other in check. I don't know which one, because that remains to be seen. This season is going to be wild and wonky like every season is. So I can't say which defense is going to step up more, but I think one of them is going to step up and hold it under that 53.
Okay. We can disagree on that one, but I think it's going to go way, way over. But, yeah, if Josh Allen hasn't played multiple snaps in any preseason game, and we'll see how rusty he is, if he is at all.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It'll be interesting because on both sides of the ball, they're always, or both teams, I should say, they're both very protective during the preseason, as you know, and it'll be interesting to see who knocks the rust off first.
Yeah, yeah. This next game, and we're both excited about it for different reasons, actually. We were running a little errand earlier. I was driving, and Alan was in the passenger seat, and I was talking about a few players I was really excited to see week one, and I almost ran off the road because I'm going to let you say it. So Alan said, I'm going to let you explain it, but Alan said, don't laugh, but there's somebody I'm really excited to see in week one. Who was that?
All right. So I go through my draft last weekend, and I get Najee Harris. So I get on and I find a preseason game of Pittsburgh, right? So I start watching the game, and I'm seeing some things I like, and not really paying much attention, just kind of looking at it every now and then, listening to background noise. And I started thinking, who is Pittsburgh's quarterback? And so I started watching the game, and it was Mitchell Trubisky. And the funniest thing just popped into my head. It was like, he looks really sharp. I was thinking to myself, the Bears could use a guy like that, but yeah, we tried that and it didn't work out so well. But I will say this: watching him in action, he made some really good decisions. And the big criticism when he was in Chicago was that and the accuracy of his throws. And he did a really, really good job. Now, whether that's a once-off or not, but maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But I'm kind of excited to see, because initially I had a lot of faith in Trubisky, and that got shattered, just like a paper cup at a Cubs game.
Oh yeah.
So I'm interested to see how he's going to process and develop.
Or championship hopes in a Bears locker room. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. Anyway, so how many Super Bowl rings did Arizona get last year? Same as the Bears.
Same as the Bears.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
All right, cool. Just asking. But I'm interested to see where his career goes from here. If he goes to another team and becomes successful and a good quarterback, I'll be shouting it from the rooftops. Damn it, Bears! Because they would have destroyed his career otherwise. But anyway, so it'd be interesting to see. And I question myself. I'm like, did I just say that? Is there a voice in my head? But yeah, it was me.
Hey, we all suffer from the homerism every once in a while. I do it all the time. So, but that game in Cincinnati, it's a division rivalry. Cincinnati's a 6.5-point favorite, which we both agree with. We think Cincinnati's offense is just going to be outstanding this year.
Yeah.
They're going to put up the points. In fact, that's why Allen believes so highly in him. He took Joe Burrow over who was it? Lamar Jackson.
Over Lamar Jackson.
Patrick Mahomes even.
Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
And there's another one.
Jalen
and Brady too.
Yeah.
Brady went pretty late, but
okay.
Which I don't blame.
And I don't say you're totally wrong on that, but yeah, I think that offense is just going to be outstanding.
I do too.
44.5-point over under. I could see that going Cincinnati 35-10.
Oh yeah.
Something
Easily.
like that,
Easily.
I think it is going to be a blowout, but
Yep, I do too. Again, depending on what happens with Trubisky, and of course, I got Najee Harris, so they're going to run for like 300-400 yards in the game.
True.
Yeah.
true.
And Trubisky does not scramble and run ever.
He scrambles his eggs in the morning. That's about
about
it.
it.
Well, probably he doesn't even do that. His maid does that. So, or his cook.
But anyway, yeah, I see that being his blowout too. I think Pittsburgh's going to get stomped, but I think it's be an interesting game at least on one side of the ball.
Yeah, and we're not going to go through each and every game. There's some real stinkers out there. I think the Cleveland, Carolina, Jacksonville, Washington. I'm not really excited about. But the next one, Indianapolis at Houston. Now that's a division rivalry game. Houston, I know a lot of people are really, really low on Houston. I said last week, or the last couple weeks, that I've been high on Davis Mills. The reason I do want to talk about this game is because I really like Houston's receiver, Brandon Cooks. I think volume is going to be there. I'm not sold on Indy's defense yet. And the fact that Indy is an 8-point favorite on the road, I just don't see them covering that. I think it's going to be a close game. I'm really excited about Houston's running back Dameon Pierce this year. Remember, Marlon Mack is there, but that's the fantasy value he has. So I think Houston has the weapons to hang with Indianapolis for at least 3, maybe 3.5 quarters. Indianapolis might win that game, and I know they got Pittman and a couple others that we really love, but I don't see that 8-point spread in week 1 on the road in a division rivalry game. What do you think?
I got to side with the people in the desert on this one. I think that's a good spread. I think the over/under is probably going to be pretty close, but I think Indy's going to beat them pretty good.
Okay.
I think if I was going on the over/under, I'd probably go over, but I don't think it'll be much over that at all. I see Indy's high-powered offense. Hopefully, I mean, I really love it when Indy has a good offense and they're really clicking on all cylinders. I love watching a team like that, especially in Indy.
Oh yeah.
They seem to do things right, or when they do things right, they do them really right. So I'd love to see that. Houston, on the other hand, I don't see much out of Houston this year.
Okay.
I know you're big on the running back game. I'm on the fence.
I like Davis Mills more than anything else in that offense. And Indy, we're both very high on Indy this year.
Mm-hmm.
However, I do kind of want to temper those expectations after the first couple games. Matt Ryan in a new offense. I think he's going to be great in that offense. I honestly do, but I really want to see it for a couple weeks to really get on board with that.
I get that. The only thing I'll say is, and it was the same thing with Matthew Stafford that we talked about before. Matty has been in a bad situation and been a good quarterback and still been at least successful for most of that time.
Yeah.
Going to Indy again.
He was a Super Bowl winning. Oh wait, he wasn't. He almost was a Super Bowl winning quarterback.
Yeah.
28-3.
Yeah. Close game though.
Mm-hmm.
Not at halftime, but.
There was with 4 minutes and 13 seconds left in the third quarter, it was 28-3. So.
But yeah, I gotta agree with you on that one. Who do you got up next?
New England and Miami. Now that may not be. Neither one of these teams are going to be world beaters this year. Well, you got Buffalo, and that's going to run away with that division. A few things that really stuck out to me with this game. Miami really hasn't shown much the last couple years. Tua, his accuracy really hasn't been there. However, Mac Jones, he was historically accurate for a rookie quarterback. I know they have some issues with the wide receiver. I do like the running back situation in New England. I don't think they've had a 1-2 punch like this for a while with Damian Harris and Ramondre. And we'll talk about this next week after our draft because I got a few tricks up my sleeve with those guys. Miami is a 3-point favorite. I know it's probably the automatic 3 since they're at home.
Mm-hmm.
But and we'll get into that in Ben predictions, I just don't see Miami's offense being able to hang with New England's.
Yeah.
And I know Tyreek Hill, there's going to be some growing pains. Let's see what happens. I could be completely wrong, and I probably am. But I just don't see Miami holding any water to New England. I think New England's going to run away with that game.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll say this. From a fantasy perspective, I see good things in Miami.
Okay.
From a real football perspective, I see things that probably won't win a lot of games.
From a football perspective, you see things in Miami. They're just not very good, right?
Yeah, they're not going to win a lot of games.
Okay, perfect.
So from a fantasy perspective, I will say yes, I like Miami. If you're looking at
I think Miami has more offensive weapons overall, with the exception of those running backs, than New England.
I agree. But you know, if you're talking against the spread or against the over/under, what is the over/under?
47. I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. Absolutely not. The spread on it, though, I just don't see why Miami is favored in that game. I think it probably should go 3 points the other way, or maybe 6 points the other way. I don't. Maybe those people in the desert know something that we don't.
They must.
They know a lot that we don't. But I mean, you know,
You'd
about
think
this
if
particular thing.
yeah, you'd think if any week of any NFL opening season, New England would be favored. I think this is the first time since I remember in the last 25, 30 years that there are more road favorite teams than there are home favorite teams in week 1 of the NFL season. So I thought that was a little interesting, and New England isn't one of them. So that's I'm flummoxed.
And you never know. This whole Marlon Mack thing might change things and screw up odds on every game. You never know.
That's true.
That's
true.
So moving on, we want to go to Kansas City, Arizona.
KC, Arizona. This one I think has some huge fantasy impacts. 53.5 is that over under. We talked about the 53 with Buffalo and the Rams. This is the highest over under this week, and for good reason. I think both teams are going to have the ability, I'm not going to say are going to, have the ability to put up a lot of points. Now, being an Arizona fan, I want them to win, but I can understand why Kansas City is a 4.5 point favorite on the road. Without D-Hop, who's really going to get those targets? I mean, Marquise Brown maybe for the first couple weeks. I'm not high on Kelsey this year, and the reason is you're not going to have to double team Tyreek Hill this year. You know what I mean?
Right. It is going to put a little bit more load on Kelsey.
But that being said, I think both teams are going to put up huge amount of points.
Yeah, and I look at Kansas City lost Byron Pringle, which okay, not a huge loss, but still one of the pieces of the puzzle, right? They lost Tyreek Hill, right?
Yeah.
Now they like we talked about, Kelsey's going to get a little bit more attention now because he's not a big secret anymore.
Not to mention he's 32, so I mean he's getting up there.
Right, for a tight end. Yeah.
For an NFL player, we're 53 and 43, and we're talking about he's getting up there in age. So
yeah. However, quarterback Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Great quarterbacks make the players around them better. We've said it millions of times. I think it's going to happen. I don't know which receiver is going to step up, or if it's going to be a running back that steps up. What's going to happen? But I see some points coming out of Kansas City this year from a fantasy perspective, and on the scoreboard as well.
I do too. And like I said, being a Cardinal fan, I want the Cardinals to win this game. Now, if for some reason the Cardinals do win this game and Kansas City just looks awful, then we might have to temper our expectations, take a few steps back, because there may be some major growing pains there. I hope not, but Tyreek Hill is an elite player. We'll have to see what happens with that Kansas City offense. And another team we're not going to talk about the matchup is the Green Bay. We'll see what happens without Devontae. I mean, those are real game changers. So
what happens in Vegas with him?
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting stuff though. I mean, the Kansas City thing, like we talked about. If Kansas City got to where they are, not by luck, not by just having to have this guy or having to have that guy. They pieced together things and they did it the right way. They're not stupid. They know how to build a team. They know how to maintain a team. I think
they have one of the best coaches, in my opinion, offensive coaches in the history of the NFL.
Absolutely. Now, that being said, that means they've got something in store. What it is, I didn't see anything in preseason. I didn't watch a lot of preseason games. I never really do.
But nobody really played either is the problem with preseason.
Right. So what's going to happen there? So from a waiver wire perspective, keep your eyes on Kansas City. Dang it, I just gave away what I'm going to do. I was going to draft every Kansas City receiver at our draft. Dang it.
You know what? Just because I'm a good friend of yours, I think I'm going to let you do that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I won't take him before you do. So.
Cool. Thank you. Tyreek Hill still with them? It
Uh,
doesn't matter. It
sure.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I don't care.
Dwayne Bowe.
No, but for real, I think Kansas City does have something up their sleeve. I think we will see some numbers out of them. Arizona, I think, is going to be another high-powered offense again this year.
They are, but as a fan, I think that's going to be the only thing. Their defense, it really isn't what it used to be. I wouldn't be surprised if Kansas City blows them out.
I don't know.
And I hope they don't, but...
As long as you get that quarterback in Arizona, there's always a chance for comebacks and to still put points on the board.
As long as he starts watching game film and not playing Call of Duty too much.
Well, that's true.
Did you hear they had to write it into his contract that he had to study game? Because he was playing too much Call of Duty. Yeah.
Well, it could be worse, I guess. There's
Yes,
a lot of
that's
things he
true.
could have been doing that he shouldn't have been doing. So, Call of Duty in the big picture. not a big deal.
Okay, I'll give you that. Okay.
Yeah.
So moving on, the last game we want to talk about, this is a juicy game to me. This is the Monday night game. It's I don't like to use the term revenge game, but if there ever were such thing as a revenge game, this would be a revenge game. You got Russell Wilson coming back to Seattle. Like we talked about, I thought he might have retired in Seattle, and I thought Tyreek Hill might have retired in Kansas City, but not the case. Now Denver is coming into Seattle. They're going to be bad. Seattle's going to be bad. I think we all have a feeling of that. We don't even know who is it, Drew Lock or Geno Smith, or do we not even know yet?
I don't know. I think the last I heard they were leaning towards Lock, but that was who knows when. I really haven't been following.
Either way, I don't think it's really either one of them's really going to make a difference. Denver's coming into that game 6.5 point favorite. Over under 42. That's kind of tempting. That is a pretty low number in today's NFL.
I'd take it. I'd take the over on that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
In a heartbeat.
What do you think about? I know we like some weapons on Denver. Seattle, I really can't think of one except Breece Hall, the rookie, and I don't know if he's even going to be ready for Week 1. We like the fantasy options. What do you think about that 6.5 point spread?
It's interesting because I guess it really depends on how Russell Wilson does, and that's the bottom line because there's really otherwise that spread means nothing at all.
Yeah.
Because that's 6.5% of Russell Wilson right there that they're putting that spread on. So 65% maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
You're the mathematician, not me. Anyway.
I absolutely love that spread. I mean, like I said, I think Seattle is going to be atrocious. They're going to be a bad team.
I think Denver's going to blow them out.
I do too.
I think it's going to be just a one-sided game. From a fantasy perspective, I can't see Wilson not having a big game. Period.
Yeah.
And pretty much everybody around him.
Absolutely.
That Seattle needs to actually start rebuilding right now because they've given away everything in their roster. So
They did.
talent-wise. So.
Yeah. Well, they still have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett.
But
They just don't have anybody throwing them to them.
Well, with nobody throwing to them, they don't have those guys either.
I know.
I feel bad for them because they're both good receivers.
Steve
but
Largent could always come out of retirement. That may help.
As long as he can throw the ball, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to add on that game?
No, that's those were the top 6 games that we really looked at. Like I said, we didn't go over every game. There's some real snoozers out there. Cleveland, Carolina really doesn't do much for me. Does it do anything for you?
Nope.
Jacksonville, Washington.
I'm kind of interested in Jacksonville because I think that offense is eventually going to fire up. Now I think they've got some of their crap from the past out of the way. I think they're in a good position to grow.
I really hope so. And I got high expectations for him, but that game with Washington I think is just going to be a complete snooze fest.
It probably will. I don't expect anything out of Jacksonville. I just hope for the best.
Yes.
For the worst. So.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, those are the games we're really excited about. Most of them, with the exception of a few, have division implications right away, right off the bat. 3 of them did. The New England Miami, the Indianapolis Houston, and the Pittsburgh Cincinnati. And that'll be something to really, really watch.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's time to go to my favorite part of the show.
Yes.
because it's something that we absolutely do phenomenal at.
Hey, we killed those underdogs last year for
Yeah.
the first 6, 7, 8 weeks. So
Yeah, I mean, we'll dominate again this year.
hopefully,
So we're gonna put money in and actually win something this year.
we're not. You know what? But
We're no. That's all you got for me is we're no.
we don't promote gambling on this channel,
No.
and we don't have. I mean, besides
So-
that stack of hundreds over there sitting in the corner.
So tell me, let me ask you this: asking somebody to give you money if a certain team loses, is that really betting? I mean, is that gambling?
No.
Okay. Well, then
Okay.
we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, talking about the boys and girls out in the desert here, there's some numbers that we want to really take a look at here. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go?
No, you can go ahead.
Okay. There's 2 games that I really like this week, and they're underdogs on the road. We talked about the New England game earlier. I don't see that game even being close. I like New England to win that game straight up. Now, if somebody were to put money on that, they would get a substantial amount back because New England is going to be the underdog. So I really like that game. And then the second game, I'm not really sold on Tennessee. We didn't talk about this in our matchups. This game probably won't be that great of a game. But I do have high expectations for that New York Giants offense. I think Saquon's really going to have... He has the talent. He just has to stay healthy. He has the talent to be the #1 overall wide receiver.
He could.
Or, I'm sorry, running back.
He could. We knew what you meant. He could. I don't like Saquon Barkley, though.
Okay.
I've been against picking Saquon Barkley since before he got injured because I didn't like him. Just a personal thing. Nothing against you, Saquon, if you're watching. I know you probably are. And I apologize. But it's just my own preference. I don't like the offense or whatever. There's something about that situation I don't like. So, yeah,
Okay. And outside of Derrick Henry in Tennessee, I don't really see that offense doing much. Robert Woods, I don't know. You got Treylon Burks, the rookie, the highly touted rookie. He's been really, really having trouble with catching the ball in the preseason and running routes. He's really not on the same page with the quarterback.
Wait, do you think Woods is past his prime? Some people say yes, some people say no. I'm going to go with no. What do you think?
I think no, but I still like Allen Robinson better than Robert Woods.
In their current situations, yes.
Yes.
Otherwise, I would have drafted Robert Woods
Yes.
instead of Allen Robinson. So yes.
Yes, but I also think Daniel Jones is going to have a really good year. I think he's way underrated for where he's going. He's not being drafted in a huge percentage of fantasy leagues. Tennessee, 5.5-point home favorite. The weather's going to be nice. You don't have to worry about that. I think New York Giants can win that game. I wouldn't be surprised if either team won, but to take the Giants straight up, you're almost getting 2-to-1 back on your money.
Yeah.
So that almost is too juicy not to touch, in my opinion. So those are the 2 games that I really like. What about you? What are you thinking?
All right. So my bet prediction is, with the Pittsburgh-Cincinnati game.
We talked about that. Okay.
Yeah. So the over-under on that is 44.5. I think that's going to go way over that 44.5.
Okay, I like it.
I think both of these offenses, and I'm listening to that little voice in my head that said Trubisky.
Pick six. Is that what you're thinking?
Whatever. I think both offenses are going to score some points. I'm really hoping that's going to be with Pittsburgh's running back, but that's another story. Cincinnati, though.
Hey, Cincinnati's running back, too. You got Mixon and High Harris.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's why I like to run this one a lot. But Cincinnati's offense, I want to touch base on that because that offense, I think, is going to be phenomenal this year. Not to give away anything that I'm doing this weekend because I've already drafted him on one league, but Joe Burrow, I think he's going to have his best season yet.
I'm with you. I'm almost ready to jump on that bandwagon. I don't know his best season yet because he had a pretty damn good year last year. But But I already know you already gave it away when you took him before Brady, before Lamar Jackson, before Hurts.
It's different league, different strategy.
Okay, all right.
Different league, different. And there was, like I said, there was a reason I did that. I wanted to start a run on quarterbacks at that point, and I did.
Okay.
So that draft part, that part of my draft strategy was very successful.
But I agree with you. That offense is prolific, and that I think that 44.5 is going to get hammered big time over.
I do too. Cincinnati's going to have one heck of a season, in my opinion. I don't think necessarily that Burrow is the best quarterback out there, but if he's not, it'll be damn close. It'll be damn close because he's got all the weapons. He's got all the things that he needs. Even plenty of opportunities to spread the ball around, plenty of opportunities to hand off, pass to his running back. He's got everything he needs in place, including the tight end.
Okay. Speaking of that, I want to go back to that rookie season of Joe Burrow. That draft class is just amazing for quarterbacks. You got Herbert,
Yes.
you got Joe Burrow, you got Jalen Hurts, you got Tua.
Yep.
I can't think of a better quarterback draft class in the last 20 years than that. Not to mention you got Jonathan Taylor, Justin Jefferson, Michael Pittman. I mean, we're loaded.
What about the year the Bears drafted Jim Harbaugh?
All right, guys, we're going to wrap this show up here.
Right.
On that note.
Forget that. All right, forget that.
Now, we did talk about that we're not going to do our What's Got Us Bent until the regular season starts, but I think are you going to do one early?
I do.
Okay.
I do have one that, and the reason I'm doing this is because it is time for drafts. A lot of you guys are going to be doing your drafts this coming weekend or right up into the beginning of the season. So here's what I'm going to tell you. If you still haven't done your draft, or if you did do your draft, keep this in mind for next season. Don't be that guy, all right? I talked about this back in season 1. We talked about how to prep for your draft and that type of thing.
We talked about it last year quite a bit, too.
We did. And don't be the guy that comes in, 25 minutes late, make that 27 minutes late, sends a message in our group text saying that he's going to be a little late because he has to stop and get a magazine. Now, you know who you are out there. I don't have to say your name, Jeremy. I know who you are, and you know who you are. Not everybody else has to know who you are, Jeremy. So, from now on in the season, anything happens, anything goes wrong, we've got a new name. We're going to call
Jeremy.
people a Jeremy.
Yeah.
Don't do a Jeremy. Don't be a Jeremy. Jeremy, thank you for being a Jeremy. Oh, my phone's
It's better than what he usually tells me. Don't be a Josh. So.
My phone will be ringing any minute now. I'm
Yeah.
sure this is going to be awesome. But, so, we did have somebody in our league who shall remain nameless show up 25 minutes late, said he had to stop and get a magazine, and, and good guy, usually on time. But this year he was that guy. Don't be that guy.
Don't be that Jeremy.
Don't be a Jeremy. That's all I got. That's what's got me, Ben. The Jeremys of the world really get me. No offense to any Jeremys that aren't a Jeremy, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
All right, so next week we're going to be back here, and it'll be the day before the start of the season.
It will.
So,
and we're going to talk about our draft. So the winners and the losers of the draft.
The winners, it's the camera's backwards. Winners and losers, you got it. But yeah, we're going to talk about who scored and who didn't, and how we scored and how we didn't.
Yeah.
And some probably nice anecdotal things about what we did during the draft that, we probably wouldn't mention otherwise. But anyway, we'll talk about that next week. Until then, there's only one thing left for you guys to do. You know what it is, Josh? Tell them what it is.
Get bent.
On fantasy football.